very soon, the Ganesh Temple, which is the largest and in some ways most, I hate this term, but mainstream Hindu temple in the city, but still should not be taken as kind of representative or exemplary of the whole. But we'll go visit one of the most significant Hindu temples in the city this afternoon. Meanwhile, I'm glad to be joined by Aeilushi Mistry, who is going to go first because she has a lot of cool stuff to show us, and Davanie Singhroy and Kaustubha, and I apologize for mispronouncing any or all of their names. There's more information, as always, about their background and their work in their bios. I'll just say very briefly, Aeilushi is a classical Indian dancer and an arts educator. We started on Friday in our discussion of Islam, we started to talk about the importance of teaching about religion through the arts. We didn't really go there with Islam, but I'm glad we can bring in that component in our conversations about Hinduism. Davanie, among other things, is a youth leader at her temple and a member of a nonprofit called Sadhana, Coalition of Progressive Hindus, that really does a lot of great social justice work informed by Hinduism. And also, again, I hate to ever pigeonhole people ethnically or whatever, but is a part of the very significant Hindu community in New York of families with roots ultimately in India, but more recently in the Caribbean. There's a whole complicated history of indentured Indian labor in the Caribbean, and then big thriving Hindu communities in Trinidad, Guyana. Your family is from Guyana. Okay, so about a third maybe of New York Hindus are Indo-Caribbean. What's that?
Yeah, we're
it's a minority, but a very large minority of the Hindu community in New York has Caribbean roots, and that's part of Davanie's story. And Kaustubha is from the Bhakti Center in Lower Manhattan, and also from the ISKCON movement, the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. So all very different, important pieces of the Hindu tapestry of the city. So, all right, that's too much for me already. Aeilushi, why don't you go first, and then maybe I'll turn off the lights.
Thank you for that introduction, and thank you, John. It was a lovely presentation. My name is Aeilushi Mistry. I'm a classically trained dancer from India, born and raised in Gujarat. So the classical dance style which I've been trained is Bharatanatyam. And I'm from Gujarat, so this is a dance style which is from Gujarat, from South India, Tamil Nadu. And later I went down south to learn and to be in the roots of the dance, to experience the dance style where it was given the birth. So, and from Gujarat, of course, the folk art is also in my vein, and I'm also simultaneously honored to even address as I'm a folk artist as well. So it's very rare, some who are classically trained will not have the equivalent addressing that you are a folk artist. So I am a classically trained dancer as well as folk artist. The folk art form which I'm talking is from Gujarat. We do Garba, Ras, and all many other folk art which we have. So I have a privilege to be part of both, and born in Hindu culture, born in Hindu family. I was fortunate with the way my upbringing has happened. So I'm going to walk you through the slides which I have prepared for you. So this is the map. Of course, I like to be walking always with my maps because we are in America, and when I say India and Gujarat and Tamil Nadu and all of it, where is that? So on the right hand side screen is a map of India, and there are dance styles which are classically dance styles which are from north and south. And I am from Gujarat, so this is the Gujarat map, and Navsari, this is where I was born. And of course, this is my favorite presentation because I am privileged again to use word gods and name them, because when I go in the real field, sometimes when we go for a meeting, they're like, do not touch the word religion and talk of God, just restrict on that level because it will be complex and create some confusion. So try to present minus that, and I'm really honored to be here, like can share all these visuals which John has also explained. Like, so yes, in India, every household will have like rickshaws and trucks and shops and streets, and everywhere you will be exploded with all these images. And yes, there are so many gods in my own family. We have a temple in my own house also, and we have all these gods present. My father is a believer in Krishna, my mother is a believer in all gods, my brother is a believer in Hanuman, I'm a believer in Shiva, so it's like a and every god has this importance and significance in your life. So you start your day with Ganesha, and then you end your day with praying the tree. So it's the journey in Hinduism. So and as you can see, there are on the two slides, Nataraja and the Ganesha. What's those movement and the significance? Like why the eyes? What's the importance of small eyes which Ganesha has? There is a meaning behind it. Why there is a big belly of Ganesha? There is also a meaning behind it. So it's like all symbolic meaning, and that kind of helps us in the process. And there are some ceremony colors which is in the other corner, like kumkum, haldi, chandan, and a light that is diva, which is used in our ceremony. But any form, those are the presents in our celebration. And as I said, as a dancer, of course, the art form. When I was little, the Hinduism does not just start like, hey, you are Hindu, but like you start your grandma start telling you stories from your Ramayana, Mahabharata, Krishna's episode. So all this the storytelling process happens. Then there is this comic books which I grew up with, which has again the same, you develop the literature, and then you go to the temple, there are sculptures, you will see that here in the Ganesh temple. So even if you go, if we are talking about the milestones, when this journey began. So if you go back, like Stone Age, first thing developed was sign language, and then followed by painting. So language came very after, but the art form developed before, and the sculptures and everything. So our temples has all these karnas, the karnas which are the dance sculptures, and then it was transformed into the literature, and then it was, now we are doing it. So everything was there in a sculpture literature on the walls of temples. So all this art form which constantly develops the curiosity in the religion. So being a musician or being a singer, you are always praying, and those prayers are either in any of the languages, whether which state you are coming from. Each state has different languages. So the poetries are either in Sanskrit, Hindi, Tamil, Malayalam. We talk about different languages. So all this art is also part of the Hindu development. And as a dancer, all this is important to me. All art form is important to me. Music, poetry, singing, because that is how we choreograph our dance forms. We are telling the stories of Ganesha, we are telling stories of Krishna, we are telling stories of Shiva, we are telling. So as a dancer, I'm fortunate to feel those energy when I'm portraying those characters. Transforming from not just Aeilushi, but transforming into Krishna. Now I'm putting this energy which is divine, and now I'm playing that role on the stage or in the temple. So it is I'm really, as I said earlier, I'm very fortunate to be exposed in this dance so that I can feel and can bring that expression and tell you that story about Krishna. So I cannot be Krishna, but I can at least be little percentage of it can be a part of it, and it's very fortunate to be done. So in this slides you can see this is a portrait picture of a Shiva, Parvati, and a Ganesha, and I am performing how Ganesha received the head of a elephant. So Shiva has in the top, like with his Trishul, behave Ganesha, and here Parvati, like what did you do? And on the other side, Ganesha is happy because he's alive again with the baby elephant face. So it's like the transforming into the three different characters within that fraction of the moment. Being in a Shiva, being in a Parvati, being in a Ganesha, it is really a moment for me, because this is something which is in the literature. This is something which I have heard as a child, the story. I have seen that in the temple. I have said it's been going on in our Hinduism, and I was able to do that on a stage. So it was a very important moment for me to be in those characters. Now I'm telling as a characters, but yes, they are gods. Another story which we can see is about Gajendra Moksha, and this is a very very popular story. Elephant is I don't want to go much into the detail of who is this crocodile and who is this elephant, but in this picture, Vishnu comes and rescues the elephant from the mouth of a crocodile. And I'm here in New York City teaching the same story with my student who is also performing it. They had fun about transforming into the crocodile and elephant. And recently I came across this slide also that was real life. So what is myth and what is real? It's all around us. And yes, we have so many gods. We pray to this divine energy. We also pray to all this nature, tree, crocodiles, fishes, so many gods, nature. So and we also believe that every living organism has that importance in this life cycle. So yes, everything is important to us in Hinduism. Here I'm going to now transition to my another Aarti lamp ceremony, which I do. This is my 5th year. Going back to Shiva. So Shiva, it is known that Shiva resides in the mountain Kailash, and that's his home. Wherever he goes to meditation, he goes up there. This is a mountain range, and there is a huge pilgrimage happens every year, and there is this Amarnath cave where the Shiva formation happens with the 1 drop of snow, and it's very spiritual journey, and everybody in their lifespan at least once you can go. My parents were able to go there. I have not yet gone there, but it's a fun place to be. So the Shiva has brought down the Ganga on his head. Ganga did not want it to come down. There's a big story behind that, but Ganga was furious. I don't want to go down to the earth. My place is not earth, but she was brought down to remove the scene. And so the message was conveyed by Shiva's team, that is Brahma, and the whole god, they have this team. Hey, Ganga is coming down furiously, can you control her? Because if she has taken the oath that she's going to destroy the earth with the force she's coming down. And Shiva opens his jata and brings the Ganga on his head, and then puts the bun again, and then the stream starts coming down. So that is Ganga flowing from from the Himalaya. So Ganga is also very important to us. As I said, she was brought down to clean the scene. So everybody, Ganga is a very holy place for us, and the flow of the Ganga in this chart, you can see many rivers merge with Ganga, Yamuna, Gangotri, Alaknanda, Brahmaputra, and many other rivers, and then it finally goes down to the Bay of Bengal. So this is a very rich plateau, very fertile, and it's a beautiful place in the northeast corridor. As these are the two places where the two rivers are merging, so the colors are different, and from there it is known as Ganga coming down. And at the Ganga we see all these lights. We go to the river. River is our mother. We also consider river as our mother. Mother gives us birth, same as water gives us birth to every microorganism being. We go to the mother also to ask for forgiveness, for peace, for any wishes. Just be there, and we place lamps into the river. And as a child, when I was growing up, again I'm going back to my exposure to the journey of culture, arts, and all other community activity which I was being involved, how it has helped me and understand my understanding towards Hinduism. That is very important. So when I was growing up, I was participating with my family into the same ceremony in Gujarat at a small place called Kacholi, and this is the river, Ambika River, and this is the temple of a Shiva, and I'm here with my parents. At this back, we used to do the same ceremony. Of course, when I was a child, I don't have a camera. Now I have a phone also. At that time, I had no. But this river, at night, we start playing by placing those lamps by 10 o'clock, and this whole riverbed is filled. My grandpa has also painted many paintings. Many times people had seen a cobra. Cobra is also associated with Shiva. You will see the cobra on his neck. Like coming down from this tree when the lamp was flowing, and there was a lamp and the cobra hood. So he was kind of protecting near the lamp, and somebody has seen that. So many stories has come from those moments. So when it's a very peaceful place, when you go to that path, it's very different. So this is my childhood, participating in all festivals and activities, and I'm bringing the same ceremony here at the East River. We started this ceremony in 2013 when we hit by the Sandy hurricane. And yes, we are in a very fast pace in New York City. It's in America. We are in a fast journey, and when something hits hard, what is the source? We go and pray, right? And we had a symposium after the Sandy, and everybody was sharing how different culture coming together, and prayers work. And that is where the whole conversation. And I propose, like, let's do this ceremony to respect the water. This is necessary, which we have all experienced during the Sandy. And with the Brooklyn Bridge Park support, and we have been doing this since 2013. So this year we are doing in 2017 on August 5th. It's a free event, and all are welcome. Last year we did the count. Approximately 1,300 people came. We must have missed. We started by 250. It's a free event. Everything is given. It's a fly by myself. We received the palm leaf pole sponsorship is being done by an individual, Bangalore, who sponsored this from California. And the palm leaf pole is also made in India. So it's coming from made in India, and it's been sponsored by this lady who is in California. So join us to this ceremony with me. So as a dancer, as an educator, how I bring all this knowledge as growing up into the classroom. As an educator, I bring social studies through dance. So during the residency with the third graders, fourth graders, and give them hands-on activity, create choreography based on what they have learned with me in the classroom. So it's a wonderful process. Many times teachers has shared after the residency is over that, thank you for coming to my class. I was connected with so-and-so who was very timid in the classroom, never raised her hand, but now she has opened up. Recently I got a compliment saying, oh, coming to your class, the kids comes back, they are very calm. So moving them, allowing them to explore their expressions, allow them to express it, however way. There is no right or there is no wrong. As a child, I was growing up, how parents has allowed you to shape your future, which I'm able to share here. So I'm still in a journey. I'm still a student. I'm an educator, but yes, I'm still a student in my own way. Go to India, meet my teachers there. Even I have a wonderful relationship with my teacher in India. So it's a process, still process. Yes, Hinduism too. Somebody asked of Hinduism, what is it? I cannot answer it in one specific sentence. It will be a day because it's a very vast topic. Everybody has a different approach, different understanding, but it's not so complicated at the same time. So that is my journey with the Hinduism. But also I would like to show you one last video. Do we have time?
I don't think we have time, but I can send them a link.
Okay.
This is the video from the Aarti ceremony?
Yeah.
I will for sure, I don't think we have time.
Yeah, so if you go on a Vimeo and if you just search my name, this is the, it will just give you the whole exposure of the...
And we'll make it even easier by getting the link and sending it to everyone.
So,
there's a great short video of the Aarti ceremony.
Right.
Describe.
Right. So join me on August 5th if you are still here. Those are from outside. And those who are in New York, please join me on August 5th at the Brooklyn Beach Club.
I'm sorry we don't have time. Let me quickly. Sorry. Everyone always wants to go last.
Hi everyone, my name is Davanie. A little bit about me, like I mentioned in my bios. I'm a bio major. I double major in biology and molecular neuroscience. So I'm very much a science person. And most people don't think that I'm religious at all, or that I should believe in God as a scientist, but I do. It's actually a really big part of my life. And that's what I want to share with you today. Aside from the sciences, I'm really passionate about social activism, especially with everything that's been going on in our country for the past year or so. It's been really important, I think, for me to step up and feel like I'm doing something. I can't just sit back and not do anything. And a lot of that drive does come from my religious beliefs. As you see on the floor, you guys have mentioned some of the topics that I want to bring up. First and foremost is ahimsa, the Hindu belief in nonviolence in speech, thoughts, and actions. And I believe a lot that what's happening does qualify as violence in these different forms, as well as physical violence. And as a Hindu, I feel that we must stand up against this violence. Also the idea.
Oh, that's sweet.
Also the idea of ekatva, that we were all one, and that we were all brothers and sisters, and we should not look at each other based on religion or race, creed, caste, etc. A core belief is that we were all truly one. I think that a distinction must be made between what's Indian culture and what actually is Hinduism, because a lot of it has meshed over time, and I think a lot of what is going on in society is passing as Hinduism, and I think that really needs to be cleared up. And what I live by is that serving others, relieving others of their suffering is the highest worship of God. That is in our scriptures, that is in the Bhagavad Mahapuran, but also as a person, I believe that we just be nice to each other. And that's why in high school I got involved with Shantibha Mandir, which at the time we were part of a larger mandir, and I was drawn to this priest. Usually I don't like sticking around one temple because, again, a lot of culture like sexism and intolerance being passed on as religion in our temples. But I met Pandit Manoj, who the one time I heard him speak, the first time I heard him speak, he had his rosary in his hand and said, "We're all like different beads on this japmala. Hindus, Muslims, black, white, it doesn't matter what you are. And if you were to just take one of these beads and pull it, the entire mala would fall apart." And that really resonated with me, especially as someone that wears my japmala everywhere. And so I decided to join that congregation and began following him. And the main focus of his temple is the youth group, the Najavan Mandali, and our motto is a quote from Sri Satya Sai Baba, which is, "The hands that serve are holier than the lips that pray." So we truly believe that serving others should be the core part of our worship, and then everything else surrounds that. And that's what we've done. We feed the homeless, we volunteer at soup kitchens, we volunteer at nursing homes and visit children's hospitals. We create care packages in times of natural disaster. And basically that's the Hinduism I was raised with, where aside from the beautiful, rituals and, the dress and everything, the basis of it is helping others and doing good. Most of you know that this is the Bhagavad Gita. One of the things that has carried on through Hinduism that has moved from India to the West Indies is definitely the Gita. I can guarantee you every West Indian home has a Gita inside, and we believe that this is the Word of God. And universally, most Hindus accept the Gita as truth. And the Gita does say a learned person sees all living creatures, not just humans, but also animals, as equals. A learned person will see the Lord in each being. And on this teaching alone, there's no reason that we should have this hatred or ill will or have this discrimination in our societies, but we do, and I think that's more human nature than our religion. As I'm sure most of you may know, there are really horrible things going on in India right now, and even here against the Muslim community. Some people are trying to say that us as Hindus shouldn't do anything about it, or it's okay because of what happened hundreds of years ago with the Mughal Empire and Indian dynasties, and I think that's all just politics in the name of religion. And again, based on the core values that I've told you about, there's absolutely no excuse for not helping our Muslim brothers and sisters, and no excuse to condone the violence that's going on right now. So my entire family is from Guyana. I did do an ancestry project actually though on my great-great-grandmother. My maternal She came from South India, actually. Most people that came to Guyana from India came from the north, UP, Uttar Pradesh. But my great-great-grandmother came from Madras. At that time, we were under British rule, so it was called the Madras Presidency. And she was brought over as an indentured laborer to Guyana with promises of riches, and we're going to the land of gold. And it was not as extravagant as described.
That's the gentlest way to put it.
It was really, I think, after slavery was outlawed, it was really just glorified slavery, being an indentured laborer, the conditions they lived in. It was really hard to actually work off your debt. And even after you did, you really had nothing because you spent all of your money and sold all your belongings to come all the way to the West. And that's what she did. But she did work off her debt, and she created a family again. And she was actually married in India because they were also told they would work for a little and return back to India, but that wasn't going to happen. So she started a family in Guyana, and I thought it was very interesting to see what parts of Hinduism survived the trip from India to Guyana and what parts didn't. Like I said, there's the Gita, and here we have my really used copy of the Hanuman Chalisa, which is a prayer to Hanumanji, who's the god of strength and bravery. So whenever someone is sick, and I grew up very sickly, or someone is afraid, they turn to the Chalisa. You just start reciting it. If there's a prayer that I think a West Indian Hindu knows, it's definitely the Chalisa. Now, with the move to America, there are a lot of problems that are specific to the West Indian Hindu community. First and foremost, I believe, being immigration. Because of the way that our ancestors came from India to Guyana after the British left, the economy was horrible, and my family comes from a farming area, which most people do that come from Guyana come from like farming families, rural areas. And we also have the highest suicide rate in the world. Life is really hard back in Guyana, especially in the rural areas, so people really would do anything to come to America, and that's what most of my immediate family members did. They did anything to come here and give us a better life. The first time I went to Guyana, I was extremely grateful to my parents for making that move, because I couldn't believe that people still live like that. I think growing up in New York and America, you don't think that people still have these struggles in other places in the world, and they do. Growing up with, everything I possibly needed, thinking that I had it bad growing up, in Queens, New York. I went to Guyana where there wasn't any power. Some of the houses were smaller than this room, cut in half, just kind of like a wooden box on 4 posts to avoid flooding. And life is really difficult, and there's a reason people have given up everything to come here and settle here. But because of that, a lot of people have come here illegally because they didn't have the money or the means or the time to get here. And now a large percentage of the West Indian Hindu community, they are illegal immigrants or people with green cards. And because of this, a lot of the social issues going on, such as domestic abuse, alcoholism, mental health issues, people don't seek help because they're afraid of their status. They're afraid to go to any institution or to turn to any one that can be seen as an authority figure that might turn them over. So really, they do turn to religion and go to temples. A lot of families that come to our mandirs, the parents are working day and night, 1 job, 2 jobs, 3 jobs. The only time they really are not at home or at work is when they're at mandir, which is why I think it's important to use the mandir as not only a place of reciting scripture, but to also encourage people to live the way that we're being taught, which is, again, helping others, as I believe. One thing that I'm really proud of being a West Indian is that I think the lines that we draw between religions aren't as solid as they are perhaps in India itself. Because when we came here, it was really not all the Hindus and the Muslims, the Christian, Indians, like in separate groups. It was the oppressed and then what we saw to be our British rulers. So that caused a sense of community in the different religions. My maternal family, they grew up right next to the masjid, and they would go over whenever they had festivals and eat. And they all had teaching at Sunday schools. Like my grandmother knows Christian hymns and prayers and Bible verses, even though she's a Hindu. And that's one thing that I really think should go into, again, that word you don't like, mainstream Hinduism, is more tolerance of other religions. I mean, our religion preaches tolerance. It says that, again, God is in everyone, that we should love everyone, that we should practice nonviolence. And it's one thing to read the scriptures and be like, I read the Gita, I read the Deity Puran, I read everything, but I think the real question is, are you living what you were taught? I think so many people right now are so quick, and even in the Guyanese community, which is shocking to me, they're justifying hatred toward Muslims because they're Brahmins. I don't believe in caste system. But it's absolutely ridiculous because they boast that they know Sanskrit and they can speak Hindi well, even though our culture was ripped apart when we were brought over to Guyana. Yet they don't live the values that teaches the Gita. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
I'm very honored and happy to be here with you all today. Davanie, from her presentation, I just want to mention that I appreciate the idea that in one sense we've been talking about how complicated Hinduism can be, but in another sense we can look at it and say there's just very simple principles that are there that lie at the essence of it. And those we could summarize that as to say that all life is sacred, and that all of us, all living beings, and that again extends beyond human beings, but all living beings have a connection to, you could say, to God or to the divine. And how that divine is exactly understood, then the question gets more complicated. But that much is simple enough, clear enough. And that Hinduism or religion or I guess a concept that I'll bring up now, yoga, is about rediscovering that. And there's different ways that people go about that. So when Henry mentioned to us to mention something about how Hinduism plays a role in our own life, as well as bring up things that might be important for teachers to understand about Hinduism. So I'll just try to cover those two questions very, very briefly. I appreciated our professor's presentation here to run the board. To be able to break, in a very practical way, what does Hinduism or yoga, or you could say religion, what is its value or what is its purpose? And to be able to look at ourselves and say that, okay, we're suffering. And almost no person can really deny that at some level we're not suffering. And then there's looking at what is the cause of that suffering, trying to understand the cause of that suffering, and then how one goes about remedying that. And really, this is what the Gita teaches, what yoga is meant to do, or what really the broader Hindu tradition teaches. And generally, there are, people say 3 or 4 ways that people go about that, and those are different paths of yoga. That some people will do that, as mentioned, through renunciation. And some people do that through meditation. That some people will do that through working in this world in a selfless way. And that some people do that through love, through devotion directly. That these are 4 kind of general paths of yoga that are all validated in the yoga tradition. And that we can, in a very practical, to get to the point of like one way, how I live this out, or how this plays an important role in my life, is to be able to say, Well, the Gita or other yogic texts will analyze that really the issue where the work is done is on the level of the mind. That we can look at the mind in a very practical way. And I bring this up because I think this can be helpful on two levels. If we almost look at it, I don't know if it's the right word, but in a sense scientifically, that our suffering, and based on, extended from that, the kind of social issues that Davanie was bringing up, that these are based on conceptions that we have stored within our mind, that have entered through our senses, and been filtered into our mind and programmed in our mind. So the yoga tradition looks at the soul as having the problem of being trapped within a body, and taking in information from the world through the senses that programs the mind in a very similar way that a computer is programmed. That information comes in, and that data, that information, is stored and processed in the mind. And so that we have a mind that has certain conceptions that's been programmed to accept certain things are good and certain things are bad. Certain things are pleasant, certain things are not so pleasant. And we spend our life trying to find the pleasant and avoid the unpleasant. But all along, the programming within the mind is kind of been randomly set. Like here we have a computer connected to a camera. And images come through the camera, they enter into the computer. We could program the computer to say that when like a blue light is flashed before the camera, that the computer could say, I like blue. And then we could also program to say when a red light is flashing in front of it, I don't like red. And then we could say that the computer has that conception. But we could have just as easily programmed it in another way, to say the exact opposite. And so what the yoga tradition is saying is that our likes and our dislikes are largely randomly programmed, and based on that we develop a sense of identity of who I am. Right? So we embrace an idea, I'm a man, I'm a woman, I'm from a certain race or a certain nationality. And then beyond that, going deeper, how we conceive of ourselves. And the yoga tradition is saying that that's a false conception of who we truly are. And that there are different ways that one will go about addressing that problem with programming. But all of that, so therefore, then how do we understand something like renunciation? I grew up Catholic. I'm the only non-Indian member of our family today. So I'm from an Italian family. So I have an appreciation for the Catholicism that I was raised with. But as I was being raised with it, I didn't really understand it very well. Years later, when I was able to look back on it with a yogic perspective, I could appreciate things that I couldn't appreciate previously. A conception like renunciation or even celibacy, why would someone embrace an idea like that? I can understand it from a yogic perspective, where I couldn't understand it from a merely religious perspective. So again, one can approach it through a path of renunciation, a path of ritual. How do we understand what ritual is? Ritual within religion can seem silly sometimes, or outdated, or counterproductive. And commonly, ritual is seen as empty of meaning, or done just because it's always been done without really understanding the purpose behind it. But if you approach it from a yogic perspective, we can understand. It's interesting that the Sanskrit word for a ritual or rite is the word samskara, which some of you may be familiar with, which means an impression made within the mind. Or you could say information downloaded onto the computer of the mind. So if, in a sense, if a Hindu is saying, I'm now going to perform the birth ritual, or the wedding ritual, or the death ritual, in a sense what they're saying is, I'm now going to perform the birth mental impression, or the marriage mental impression, or the death mental impression, so that these rituals we can analyze what the impression is that they leave within the mind, how, in the details of the ritual, why they're designed in that way, and what we're meant to walk away with that ritual from. And so, for instance, in the path of Bhakti yoga, there's so much ritual there. And this is something that you'll see manifest in the temple today. like the act of puja, where different articles are offered to the deity. And if I hadn't learned more than as much as I had, not that I've learned so much, but if I looked at this with just what I had learned just as a boy watching television and picking up what I did in school, it would seem to me that this is a very primitive ritual. The idea that there are hundreds of gods and that we offer this carved image, we offer some offering, that it would seem to me like a primitive, and it's the kind of thing like I remember as a boy seeing Tarzan movies, and you can see that there are these primitive people that have their god that they're worshiping, and so it would remind me of that. But from a yoga perspective, I can be able to analyze the value of such an action, the practical value, how that affects the mind, how in yoga the idea of repetition is something that's done regularly with the right dedication, how it, in a sense, reprogram the mind. And the goal always being to reprogram the mind towards what? Towards love, towards devotion, towards connecting to that divinity that's within all of us. So I just thought maybe it's a very long conversation, but just to get that the things that may seem very foreign or unusual, even the common Hindu person may not fully be able to explain or understand exactly why they're doing it. They may be doing it out of tradition. But there is a sophisticated theology and a sophisticated philosophy, or you could even say in a sense of science, that lies behind it, that has what I would consider a very noble goal and a very brilliant way of going about it. That's one thing. And then to get to the point about what important things that teachers might need to know, I just had a couple of thoughts, and one of them is that, and one was addressed in the talk earlier quite well, I felt, is that it is complicated. Generally, or let's say it's not uncommon, that what do Hindus believe A, B, C, D, and then you will not get a very good picture if it's approached that way. And perhaps even more of a disservice is some of the bizarre things that are presented as Hinduism. I believe, I didn't see myself, that CNN recently did as part of a series on world religions.
The Believers.
The Believers,
Yeah.
yes. I don't know if some of you saw it. I didn't see it myself, but from what I heard, basically, a better title might have been like the most bizarre things we could find in India, and here it is.
And other places around the world. Like they really, yeah. I haven't actually seen it, but I know that among like religious studies academics, there's been this huge uproar,
Yes.
mostly critical of that series.
But that's not an uncommon, and I think perhaps it was, things have improved with that. And certainly there are going to be things that are very difficult to explain. How do you explain Ganesh has an elephant head? How do you explain what a Shiva Linga is? So many of these things will, if we're any time to approach another culture, another belief, we're going to have to kind of broaden our minds to try to accommodate these ideas. But the fact is that the majority of it could be explained rationally. And so to try to shy away from these kind of more bizarre presentations, I think is important. And then just this idea of how complicated the beliefs are. I just thought I'd share that certainly it's very complicated, certainly it's very complex. But to simplify it, and what was done previously, but I'll just reemphasize that if one can understand, in one sense draw a line and say that among Hinduism there are certain believers that hold that that the ultimate reality is non-dual. In other words, there's not that there's myself and yourself and each one of us here eternally exist as individuals, and that God is another individual, but rather that we're all part of one energy absolutely. And in our liberated state, that oneness is all that is left. And then on the other side of that line, there's those that are dualists, that believe that each one of us has an eternal individuality that's maintained, even in the liberated state. and therefore, in the liberated state, one is communing, you could say, with the divine, connected to the divine. And that conception is not so, whereas the first one is, I think, more foreign to the Western thinker. The second one is perhaps a lot more familiar and easily understandable. But in any case, besides that, that one can recognize that perhaps most fundamental division within the broader idea of Hinduism, that when one hears something on one side of that then they can always say, well, yes, this is one aspect, but there's also another aspect. If you just get that one point, it'll be easier to interpret.
In my compulsive timekeeping, we have like 2 or 3 minutes left. So, Kaustubha, I'm sorry if this puts you too much on the spot. You can politely decline. But I wonder, as the one person on the panel who was not born and raised as a young child in the Hindu tradition with a Hindu family, could you share just a minute or two, a little bit about what originally drew you to the tradition and what was that process like? I mean, there's not like a formal conversion where you become Hindu, but there must have been a really complicated emotional, spiritual process for you. You could share.
I'm happy to share what I can. About 30, I'm 51 now, so I believe when I was about, in my late teens, I became interested in spirituality in general, and I was reading different texts and so on. I was at that time kind of very much immersed in particular subculture in New York. It was like this the punk rock, which was at that time a very underground thing on the Lower East Side. And within that, I guess it's just the nature of that neighborhood, that the Krishna conscious movement first established itself in that neighborhood in the mid-60s. And since that time, there's always been some element of that in the neighborhood. So even like punk rock concerts that I would go to in underground clubs, I might find a Hare Krishna person outside feeding people. Or in Tompkins Square Park, which is actually the birthplace of the Krishna conscious movement.
And possibly a punk rock also.
So there's a crossover. And so myself and some of my friends became interested in, I guess you would say Hinduism, although I don't know if we really looked at it that way. But we became interested in the text and the philosophy, particularly the Bhagavad Gita, but others as well. And it was, for some time, I was reading those texts, and they were just ringing very true. The ideas that I had, they articulated them very well, and then they also filled in a lot that I had never conceived of. And so at a certain point, I attended a talk by one gentleman who later became my guru in an apartment on the Lower East Side of a friend of mine. And after hearing him, for some time I was reading these books and feeling there's a lot of truth in this, but I didn't know what kind of commitment I would be willing to make to it. But after I heard this man speak, I said, this is really what I want to do with my life. About 6 months later, I became a monk. One other monk invited me to travel with him. I became what we call a brahmachari, kind of a student monk. At that point, I did a lot of traveling. I spent a lot of time in India, a lot of study, and I lived that life for 13 years till I was 34. And after that, I returned to New York. Got involved in I really got involved in the world of yoga, world of yoga in New York City, where I never went to college, so in one sense my life as a monk was my college, and I was able to take that, what I learned, and bring it to that world, and that led to my work now at the Bhakti Center.
Thank you. Thank you all of you. I really appreciate it. I really love that we have, in addition to some of the kind of different histories and backgrounds in Hindu communities and ethnic backgrounds in Hindu communities in New York, we also have like this is a total oversimplification, but a focus on kind of arts and politics and spirituality. as different dimensions of Hindu life. So I really appreciate all of his contributions. And we have about a half an hour for anything from you guys. Any questions that come directly out of our speakers' presentations, or anything else still on your mind from John's Commonal's seminar earlier that you want to run by them? Go for it. Yeah, Mary.
I guess in regards to the yoga as a path to sort of, I think you use the word reprogramming. Would you say that the ultimate goal, I mean, is it merely just to recognize that the programming exists, or is it to erase that? I mean, you said reprogram, and I think you mentioned an important question is reprogram it to what? Still a little foggy with that.
Okay.
Like,
So as well, I probably have to be, as has been said, and when we said that's complicated, different people have different conceptions of that. I'll try to, in a super tight nutshell, say that like in the, what's called the Ashtanga Yoga path, Ashtanga Yoga, which is something, in one sense you could say technically is not part of Hinduism, but certainly
can you spell that?
Ashtanga, A-S-H-T-A-N-G-A, Ashtanga, means the eight-limbed path of yoga, which is what a lot of people think about when they think of yoga, sitting in the right pose and meditating for a very long time. So there they'll say that this path leads up to a stage called samadhi, wherein the mind is held completely still on one point. And then what happens in that state is something that's very subtle and difficult to describe. But I think it might be helpful, although maybe a simplification, but it might be helpful to look at it as one sense it's like the reprogramming of those misconceptions that are firmly rooted in the mind. Misconceptions of identity are, in a sense, erased or disintegrated in some sense.
So it's not only a recognition, but an actual like.
Yoga is meant to deal with the issue.
Mm-hmm.
Like the Bhagavad Gita will say that when the mind is conquered, that the Paramatma, which means that you could say the God, you could translate that if you want to, that the supreme self, but is already reached. So it's the mind that's preventing that. And so we very practically want to deal with that. So one path is through meditation. There's another path called Jnana Yoga, which literally means knowledge, but it's a path of analysis and renunciation, combined with renunciation. You see, again, if you really understand what these things are, it helps. Like some of you may have seen, for instance, like a photograph or a film of, like, say, an Indian renunciate. They hold their arm up in the air for like years, right? 15 years. And even that arm is becoming withered, and you know, why? Why in the world is something? And that is certainly not a mainstream. but
I think most Indian Hindus would go, this is something a little off.
But if one can understand the idea behind it, that someone would say, how many lifetimes have I simply followed the dictation of my mind about what is right and what is wrong, and what is good and what is bad, and been, in a sense, enslaved by that. So through one act of defiance, I'm going to take control. I'll conquer the mind through this one act of defiance. Something like that. So Jnana Yoga is this combination of really analyzing what is truth and what is illusion. And then combining that with these practices of austerity. Now, both of those paths are, again, like the Bhagavad Gita is kind of Krishna steering Arjuna away from these. He's validating the paths, but he's saying this is something that's very difficult, and not only, as Professor Jan was mentioning before, we could say that we don't have the time or the practically to do this. Or we could, in a sense, what's being said in the Gita to Arjuna is you don't have the qualifications to go off and sit in the forest for decades alone, you know, living off the fruits and the roots that fall from the trees, and just controlling the mind. Very few of us have a mind that's peaceful enough to do that already. And Krishna will say to Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita, to do this you need to see stones and gold as the same. In other words, you're not materialistic at all. And then furthermore, you need to be able to see your friends and your enemies as equal. And Arjuna's, although it's kind of between the lines, between the verses, Arjuna's saying, honestly, I can't say that my mind is so peaceful and detached. Okay, then Krishna says, there are other paths of yoga.
Just one follow-up
Yes.
question. I mean,
But I would just, if I can, just one more thing, because you said to where does how do we want to reprogram it? path of Bhakti Yoga, the idea is I'm not going to try to break the attachments to the mind that's done in Jnana Yoga. I'm not going to try to still the mind through meditation that's done in Ashtanga Yoga. But in a sense, I want to bring in all of the kind of data to the computer that harmonizes my mind with who I really am at the core, the soul, which is an eternal, blissful, wise, and loving being. And that's where things like cultural arts come into play. Okay, that I could go see any kind of dance, but if I see a dance that's connected to this theme, that's going to bring my mind to contemplate these higher spiritual ideas, then now what I'm doing is I'm taking the disadvantage of the mind and I'm making it the senses and the mind, which the other more difficult yoga paths, they say, shut these down. Super tightly control them. What the Bhakti Yogi is doing is saying, let me bring in the right kind of dance, the right kind of music, the right kind of culture, the right kind of literature. And if I download this onto the computer, then the programming of my mind becomes the same as the programming of my heart or my soul. And then there's a harmony between the two, or a union between the two, which is another word for yoga.
I actually want to extend this conversation and kind of put the same question to Davanie and Aeilushi, because I think one of the mistakes that it's important to, I think, make clear to students, like now that yoga as a kind of physical practice and meditative practice is like widely popular, and you may not know about Hinduism, just know about yoga, there's I think sometimes the error of equating the traditional concept of yoga with just the Ashtanga, the poses, but I think, Davanie, I would guess that you would probably, not to put words in your mouth, but that you might describe your social justice work as a form of karma yoga, as like a yoga of action. I don't know if that, maybe I'm just I don't want to put words in your mouth, but do you see like the discipline of yoga as sort of being relevant to your own work as well?
I think it carries the same principles as the yoga that you're referring to. Just basically the dedication. It's a lot about the reason of doing it. Spreading love and recognizing the oneness of everyone is my motive behind doing this. And I've studied Vedanta. I actually lived in an ashram for a little bit in Canada, studying Vedanta, which also teaches basically why renunciation should be appealing. And again, I think one of the most important aspects is the self-discipline, to realize, and correct me if I'm wrong, but that everything around us, again, the conception that we already have is Maya or illusion, and it's to really focus on our inner selves. And we believe that you can be, in Vedanta they teach you can be your own guru. You just have to really focus and meditate and listen to what your inner self is saying and who you truly are, and get rid of this idea of this illusion, the lines that we've drawn to separate each other. And I think that's how that crosses over into my social activism.
That's another tool for getting rid of the artificial lines between people in some ways. Is yoga an important concept in your dance?
Yes, because it's all, everything comes together when you dance. Is all the practices of yoga is implemented when practicing. So yes, it's an important.
I know I teach in Central Kentucky to mainly Protestant students, and you were talking about your family and how many of you were devotees to different deities, and I was wondering if you could kind of, when I'm trying to explain this to a student, could you kind of say how that adds to your family dynamic, and also some of the struggles that maybe that causes in your family by being devotees to different deities?
It adds a dynamic, and it's beautiful. But it's right now, as I said, my brother is a follower of this deity, of this god, and my father and my mother and my sister-in-law. But it's a very dynamic, and it's important, and it's respected. So it adds a different bond within the family.
Are those practices or devotions ever like in conflict with each other within the family? There's never any time where
And again,
your
to see
commitment to
this-
one is sort of conflicts with someone's commitment to another?
No, and again, all these gods again reside in one temple. So one temple is one family. So the bond is like that unity, and what we are all talking about is in a harmony, coming together.
But it's very, I could imagine in your students, like if,
It's a
the
very
expectation that like if mom goes to the Episcopal Church,
Yeah.
dad's Baptist, and you know the kids are Catholic, that would be a problem sometimes.
And
Yeah.
also like we have Mondays is for one god, Tuesday is another god, Wednesday is another god, Thursdays, and Saturday everybody knows it's Hanuman's day. So it's like no matter what. Like it's evening, whole day is over, 7 o'clock, let's go to the temple of Hanuman. So it doesn't matter if I'm a follower of a Shiva, but I'll go to that temple. So it's each day is yes.
Just on this point, I forgot to mention a term that I usually mention called Ishta Devata, which is what she's talking about. The term literally means your desired form of God or manifestation of God. If the divine is one and it manifests in many ways, then the tradition just gives you a certain kind of freedom to find yourself drawn to the form of deity to which you are drawn, and that changes within the family.
Or within the course of the week.
Oh yeah, or within the course of your life, right? So for me, it's pretty powerfully Krishna, right? Even though I'm not a Hindu, but you know, if I were to choose, it's both the playful Krishna of his, adolescence and fooling around with the gopis. Don't draw any.
About your adolescence.
Yeah, it was very boring.
But that's very-
but yeah, so I think that fits with what you're saying.
And that's a very good question, and I've been asked about that question every time. Like, how can in Hinduism that many gods, and how can you process it? It's why it's so complex. Why can't it be that one god?
So it's certainly the temple that we'll visit this afternoon is the central devotion is to Ganesh, but you'll see, figures of many deities. At your mandir, is there one deity that's kind of preeminent, or it's
But I think a lot of mandirs, because they have like a main god, and then they still have idols and all the other forms of God. For example, I go to the Ganesh temple very often. I go to the Ganesh temple very often, but I'm a deity bhakt. I'm a devotee of the goddess. So I always spend most of my time actually in front of the Durga worshiping there. And I just want to say that in my household, I grew up with my mother as a practicer of Sanatana Dharma and Hinduism, and my dad actually was raised Christian. His family converted when they were brought over by the British. And my mom's Mistry Devata, Hanuman, and mine is Kali and Durga, and my dad's Christian. So it can work, even Christian.
Hey, this is for anybody. If you were to articulate how the ideas of Brahman, Vishnu, Rama, and Krishna relate in a way that somebody who's not deeply familiar with Hinduism might understand.
in the next 3 or 4 minutes?
Does anybody have a...
That's it. They are incarnation of Vishnu. So, but at the same time, Ram and Vishnu, they are both opposite. Very opposite of personality-wise, practice-wise, very opposite. But at the same time, both has a positive message.
What Gita teaches us, and also a lot of different, most texts teach us, is that there is this God that has no shape, no form, no gender, Brahman, the ultimate power, which is mostly like the energy, what we consider like the life source of everything on earth. And the reason that we believe that God has taken these different incarnations, and that again we worship God as an idol, is because we believe that our mind can't really grasp that idea. Like if you really sit and think about it, it's really hard. I still look up when I think about God, but our concept of God should be that God is everywhere and everything. So by using these incarnations, we believe that God has come onto earth to show us how we should live, how we should act, how we should treat others. And it's kind of a stepping stone that, it's easier to have an image of a god or a goddess when you're praying. And we believe that if you continue on the spiritual path with devotion to that one form of God, then you can come to the realization of Brahman and truly understand that there's this all-pervading formless God.
I wonder your take, because I know ISKCON has a somewhat different take on this because of the devotion to Krishna. So
I would say beyond ISKCON, we're talking about broader traditions, and it was spoken of earlier. You have your Vaishnavite, and then even with that, it breaks down to 4 major lineages, and then amongst those 4, you have just slightly nuanced ways to address that question, and from the way that as a Vaishnava in a particular lineage that I come in, the way that one way to perhaps answer that question would be it becomes more of a question of, it becomes an esoteric. You're going into an esoteric realm here. And that is that, well, for instance, in the particular lineage that I'm in, we would see that Krishna is that monotheistic God who manifests in many different ways. And the form of Rama would be one of the first ways that he manifests. And each time that he manifests, he's going to be showing a little less of himself. So like Rama is, in a sense, Krishna, but your devotion for Rama becomes limited to certain, I'll give it an analogy. If you have a judge, he's one person in the courtroom, and he's the same person when he goes home, but he's showing more of himself. So when you see the judge in the courtroom, he's addressed with reverence, right, Your Honor. And when he gets home, his wife isn't going to call him Your Honor. She's going to
Snorkel. That's weird.
And even if she went into the courtroom, actually she would call him Your Honor, right? But at home, in that setting, he's going to reveal more of himself.
Different manifestation.
Yeah, and so, or you take like Vishnu, which is again, some Vaishnavas will say that Krishna is a manifestation of Vishnu, and some will say vice versa. But that this is the way that in my lineage we would defend that Krishna is first, and then Vishnu comes later, because when you approach Vishnu, you approach like the judge in the courtroom, it's with reverence. But you can love Krishna in this very intimate way.
Yeah.
And so with Rama, there's one woman that can love him as in a romantic sense, and that's Sita.
She gave up on him.
I'm sorry?
She gave up on him.
Well, that's a much more complicated.
That seems like a very, from my limited knowledge of all this, seems like a very sort of Bhakti perspective, because you're the judge analogy,
Yes.
because you're suggesting that the truest representation is the intimate one at home.
Yes.
Not the judge, but
Full,
the
let's say
lover,
not truest, but the
partner.
fullest.
The fullest, right.
Fullest presentation.
Yeah, the broadest and most complete is the really intimate.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so therefore, Krishna can be loved by unlimited women, by unlimited friends. He can be loved with parental affection by unlimited people. You can't approach Vishnu with parental love, but you can approach Krishna with that. It's a big question.
Sure to understand.
Yeah.
I've got a question for Davanie. A lot of our students feel that science and religion cannot mix, and that you cannot be religious and a scientist. So I guess how do you approach that? I guess when I try to explain to other people how we cannot have those abilities.
I think my answer would be fluidity. I like to look at my religion also from a historical perspective, and all religions, I think, offered explanations for things when we didn't have the scientific information. With the basic principle that I have that everything is God, so my scientific, passion is not separate from God's plan or God's story. I just feel that science is the way that we are discovering God's world, if that makes sense. For me, growing up, I questioned God all the time. I was home with my nanny and my grandmother, and I was like, well, what do bad things happen? Like, you know, the questions that all kids have, and how does God know everything? And, you know, if God is always there to save you, because that's what we're taught when we're grown up, then why do bad things happen? Right? And when I became really sick at 11, I lost my ability to walk, and I questioned that a lot. I never did anything. Why did I lose my ability to walk? I don't know if I really believe in God. And I've always been a person of science. From a very young age, I would read like anatomy books for fun. But through my illness, I found that it played the important role of hope. And that's not necessarily something you can get from just like hard science. I've learned the importance of, you know, mental health and relationships and, you know, the non-physical things that I usually focus on in science. And there's still so many things that religion can give you that science cannot. So when my doctors told me, sorry, I don't know, we don't know what to do, and sent me home in a wheelchair, and I was like, great, I'm never gonna walk for the rest of my life. The only thing that I had to hold on to wasn't scientific advancement, because I knew, even at that age, that wasn't going to come quick enough for me. I turned to religion for hope, and that's why, for me, it's a very personal thing, which it bothers me when other people try to push their Hinduism on others. I'm like, it's such a personal, individual thing for me. You know, sitting in temple and praying and crying and eventually getting better, actually. And I still love science. I still go to the lab and, you know, go to chem class and fail physics quizzes.
I just noticed something very powerful about resisting the sameness in Hindu traditions. There's a resistance of all being the same, but by doing that, there's more of an embracing of all. Is that, you know, a little bit from even all the different traditions that we've been talking about? It's interesting that if it is an argument and not consensus, we tend to think it's going to be divisive. But I'm really seeing something a little different in that it does. Maybe it embraces the individual more so than, I mean, it feels like it's part of that tradition is embracing individual experience. And
certainly some people describe Hinduism as a particularly inclusive religious tradition. It's able to incorporate, you know, ideas and figures from other traditions and kind of bring it into this Hindu umbrella. But that's also in tension with, I mean, John was talking before, and you've alluded to it also, like this very exclusivist, you know, sort of religiously motivated hostility to Muslims, Christians, Dalits.
I know.
You know. So there's a, I don't know, there's a clear question coming out of any of this, but it seems like there's two sides to that.
Well, I was just nodding in appreciation. In one sense, I agree that in many ways Hinduism is very inclusive, but I don't want to just kind of ignore.
Well, socially, obviously, you know, seeing historically and so on.
I just want to add is like there is a saying that whole world is one family, so that inclusiveness is there, and it's like no matter what, we are all different shapes and sizes and colors, but we are all one family, and that is what the main foundation of inclusive comes from.
Right.
So no matter what, because of my proper upbringing from my family, is like we are all in here together, no matter what, rich, poor, everybody. So just let that help, and for help, you will receive help, and vice versa. So it's there.
We have time for maybe two more questions, I hope.
My question was actually relating back to the science, like reconciling religion and science question. Let me see if I can articulate. Like, you know, in Christianity, as there's sometimes like a conversation or reimagining about evolution. I was wondering if there's anything similar in terms of like reincarnation, or if there is a conversation about that, or if it just doesn't even matter because the texts aren't saying the same way as Christian texts are.
Darwin, karma?
Yeah.
Is that nice?
For me, again, I think it's that idea where I put my religion like in context of when this text was written and this explanation being given. But I do notice a lot of Hindus that will say, you know, if you look at like the incarnations of Vishnu, they kind of reflect actually evolution, going from a fish to an amphibious animal, which I always thought was interesting, and then onto mammals, and then finally to the human form, which kind of actually reflects evolution. But what I really think is our religion is man-made. Hinduism is man-made. God is not man-made, but our traditions and our rituals that we created are man-made. So they can only be based off of the information we had at the time, which is why again that fluidity I think comes into play. I mean, this is scientific discovery, and if you believe in science, it shouldn't go against, again, my religion, because what it is for me is not necessarily like the nitty-gritty details of the stories and all the tales, but the overall concept of like, you know, love, peace, understanding. And I think having that open mind and like accepting like evolution and, you know, recent in scientific history, genetics, is also part of religion in that I would be too arrogant in saying, no, I've never heard about this, it can't be real. It's that open mind and being, you know, receptive to new ideas. And that's how I think you can kind of draw the line between, not across, religion and science.
My question.
Unfortunately, we have to end really soon.
Oh, but yeah, my question has to do with the role of gurus within different manifestations of how Hinduism is practiced. It's interesting is that my understanding is that sometimes the role of gurus is sometimes just invented. Can anybody speak to that?
Yeah, it's a big topic. Very short time to address it. There are all kinds of ideas about gurus, and then there's within these texts there are explanations about the role of the guru. Maybe what I can just do is share my understanding and my own experience is that the guru is not necessarily a mystic in the sense that they're going to transform you like touch or you know some kind of special grace. But in a practical sense, the guru should understand the path clearly. They should live it themselves to inspire them to do it. And they should be able to take the disciple or student. They should be able to understand. And this is what's happening in Bhagavad Gita. Arjuna turns to Krishna and says, I'm your student now. You please instruct me. And basically, Krishna analyzes his psychology and what kind of path of yoga will be, how that path can be walked by him. So Arjuna was feeling like, I want that path of renunciation. It seems to me like that's where I'll find peace and happiness. And Krishna saying to him, I understand your psychology, and I understand that if you go out into the forest and try to meditate, externally it looks like you're doing yoga, but in your mind you're going to be right where you are right now. So you need another path. Let me help direct you on that path. Explain to you why that path is appropriate for you, and inspire you to continue it. So where I've seen the principle of guru function well is when it's well informed, it's coming from a place of compassion, trying to help, and it's being able to give clear direction about how to take a very broad tradition and make it practical.
Because I know you talked about, I don't know if you used the term guru, but the pandit at Jumandir who really spoke to you very, and I know Aeilushi spoken about your relationship with your teachers, your dance teachers in India, and that's, I think, very similar to what the gurus do.
Yeah, it's a teacher, guru is a teacher, they are guide to whatever journey. In my field is a dance and give you the guidance. Wherever you need a check-in, they are there to support you. So it's like, it's kind of a reference. And we also have a very old tradition, which is like a Guru Sishya Parampara, which is you spend time with your teacher and So basically, whatever he's preaching, he's trying to pass it down to you. So then it goes to the next, and so forth. So it's in this old tradition where students will spend a whole time, day and night, just staying with the teacher and serving them, and in exchange of getting the knowledge from that teacher.
Wouldn't that be great if all your students?
Yeah,
had the same
so
teacher?
that is a very old Guru Shishya Parampara tradition which is being practiced. And now the change has happened. We don't spend that life with the teacher, but like we go and check in with them in exchange again for that same knowledge, but in the monetary exchange. Before it was just as a devotion.
In Hinduism especially, and I think what a lot of people don't realize is like you don't just have like a music teacher or a dance teacher, it's a relationship.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of discipline and you have to do what your guru says. One quick thing I was saying that in the Vedanta movement, they believe that you can be your own guru because there is a bit of trouble because a lot of people in the guidance community as well, they have like actual physical, spiritual gurus, people, but sometimes, they're people. They can do wrong things and guide you on the wrong path. So that's always been my problem with it is I feel I don't want another person in between me and God, but I feel like for other people that's really comforting. It's a very daunting spiritual journey to have someone, and they would prefer to have someone to guide you. And again, I think that comes down to it being individualized. For someone like me who can't handle the structure and the discipline, I prefer, I do have people I consider gurus and that they're teachers, but I don't take, there's a whole ceremony where you're this is my guru, I will bow to you before I bow to my parents. If God himself came down, you were supposed to bow to your guru before to God. I can't make that kind of commitment to a person. But some people do, and it's actually really incredible to have that amount of discipline and faith in someone.
We'll have to stop there. Thank you all so much.